Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So welcome back to part 2 of the cardiovascular system. So the next subtopic is 32.4, which is on blood. So the important part of this subtopic is actually the capillary exchange. However, let's just refresh back on the types of blood. So blood transports gases, nutrients, waste products, antibodies and hormones throughout the body. It also helps to combat the pathogenic microorganisms. It carries platelets and factors that ensure clotting to prevent the blood loss. So the first type of blood, we have the RBCs, which is the red blood cells. They are small biconcave discs that lacks a nucleus and contain the hemoglobin. They are manufactured continuously in the bone marrow of the skull, ribs, vertebrae, and ends of the long bones. Next, we have the white blood cells. White blood cells contain a nucleus and lack the hemoglobin. They are important in the inflammatory response. They are divided into two categories, which is based on the presence or the absence of the cytoplasmic granules. We have the granular leukocytes and also the agranular leukocytes. And lastly, we have the platelets. This results from the fragmentation of the megakaryocyte in the red bone marrow. They are non-cellular, they form elements and involve in the blood clotting. Capillary exchange. Capillaries are very narrow and tiny RBCs must go through it in a single file. So if you see in this GIF here, the RBC move through a single file. And the movement of fluid through a capillary wall is controlled by two forces, which are the osmotic pressure and also the blood pressure. The walls of the capillaries are very thin to facilitate the diffusion of nutrients, gases, and waste. So this figure shows the blood's capillary exchange. At this end here is the arterial end of the capillary, where the blood pressure is higher than the osmotic pressure, and this end here is the venous end of the capillary, where the osmotic pressure is higher than the blood pressure. So back to the arterial end, what happened here? The blood pressure is higher than the osmotic pressure. So if you see the arrow, the red one are the blood pressure, and the green ones are the osmotic pressure. So the blood pressure is higher than the osmotic pressure, meaning the net pressure is out. So water tends to leave the bloodstream. Water exits the capillary near the arterial end. So in the venous end, what happened? The osmotic pressure is higher than the blood pressure. So if you see the arrows, which means that there is a net pressure in, the water tends to enter the bloodstream. Water enters the capillary near the venous end. So what happened in the midsection? So in the midsection, the molecules including the oxygen and also the carbon dioxide follow their concentration gradient. So the solutes diffuse into and out of the capillary according to their concentration gradient. Oxygen and nutrients diffuse out of the capillary, while the carbon dioxide and the waste diffuse into the capillary. So notice that the red blood cells and the plasma protein are too large to exit a capillary.
Capillary fluid exchange. Capillaries are where fluids, gases, nutrients, and wastes are exchanged between the blood and body tissues by diffusion. Capillary walls have tiny pores that allow water and small solutes to pass between the pores into and out of the blood vessel. The capillary walls do not allow proteins to pass through. Two forces control movement of fluid through the capillary wall: blood pressure, which tends to cause water to move out of the capillary, and osmotic pressure, which tends to cause water to move into the capillary. At different locations in the capillary bed, the net forces will influence the direction of fluid movement.
Okay, so this is the summary of topic cardiovascular system. So the cardiovascular system circulates blood throughout the body. The heart pumps blood through the blood vessels, which is the arteries, capillaries, and veins. As blood flows through these vessels, it delivers oxygen and nutrients to cells while removing the carbon dioxide and waste products from them. For the second part of the cardiovascular system, we studied on the blood capillary exchange, what happens at the arterial end and what happens at the venous end. So that is all for the cardiovascular system topic for this ASB 0205. So thank you very much for your attention and also your concentration in watching the video. Thank you and goodbye. Assalamualaikum.